There we go. We got almost everybody up in here. Let's get these other Facebook groups up going before it's time to go. One of these days, I'm going to send us to the Colts channels by accident. I just don't know how I haven't not done that yet. But they're joining us on the couch this year for the off season as well. But welcome in, guys. Welcome in. It is Tuesday morning. It is 6:34 a.m., probably 7:34 where most of you are at. And it is January 11th. And that means it's time for an episode of Broncos for breakfast. Gosh, my brain froze for a second because I messed it up yesterday. I'm like, wait a second, what day is it? Okay, Broncos for breakfast. The sun is not up yet, and my brain is just starting to work. I've had one cup of coffee though, so I'm really starting to feel it. I'm getting excited.
It's hard to keep up sometimes. I see you more than I do my family. So, building the Dove Valley Deep Divers for breakfast.
Gosh,
inside.
Carry the one. It's the off season. We're gonna have a good time with it, and man, the Broncos. Talk about, we're going to be busy here at Mile High Huddle on the Broncos for breakfast, Mile High Insiders, Huddle Up, all of these guys. And you know who's going to be busy? George Paton. These guys, they're casting the biggest coaching search I've ever seen as far as candidates go. So we got a lot to talk about today. You guys can follow Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Obviously, we're with Mile High Huddle. Go to our YouTube page, et cetera, et cetera. But before we even get into the conversation about George Paton and all these candidates that we're going to have to run through, we want to shout out to Ethan coming in with a banger. I guess that's just what you call it, a banger off the bat. DWI guys, 250 smackaroos. Good morning, gents in Broncos country. Here's to casting a wide net on the coaching search, just as long as it snags the right leader. Well, Ethan, you're the leader in our clubhouse now after this. So
you're like you're like a Ronald Acuna leadoff guy, a leadoff guy with pop. For the older folks who may not know who Ronald Acuna is, he hits 500-foot home runs from leadoff position, like Ricky Henderson. Ricky Henderson hit about 200 and something home runs from leadoff. So you're a leadoff guy with pop for sure, Ethan. Appreciate you out there, and buckle in. There should be some good football in the next couple of days in your neck of the woods too. So leg 2, Chelsea, Spurs tomorrow afternoon. I'm jealous. I really am. I wouldn't give up my kids growing up where they are for it, but what do I want to do? I want to drink coffee and I want to watch soccer in London. That's what I want to do with my days. That's big ambitions.
One day, Scott, you lived in Seattle. Were you in Seattle for a bit? I can't remember. Carl was in Seattle.
I wasn't. The company I worked for was in Seattle for a long time. I had my choice to move to LA or Seattle. And it was when Fox had bought Scout. I'm like, well, Fox is in LA. I'm going to LA. So I moved to LA, but I spent a lot of time in Seattle, and really great city. I really like Seattle.
Seattle, I think, has the closest weather to London. So a lot of rain, kind of that 40 to 70.
Misty rain, yeah. It rained. When it rains in the South, it rains. We call them, frog stranglers.
Yep.
It rains, but it also gets sunny. And hot. But yeah, it's cold and wet in England a lot.
Constantly. Miguel coming in. Good morning, fellas. Great to see you. DBA's in the house. Good morning, everybody. I see that we got Mile High Truth saying Nick is probably late again. I feel like I'm typically pretty good being somewhat on time.
And comparatively speaking, we're like 20 minutes early. No, we came in about 8:32 because we've got some business to take care of, and we just wanted to make sure we had our ducks in a row as we launch a new sponsorship.
Yep, absolutely. We got Luke Wright coming in too. Check out for that new sponsor coming in, Luke. It's Manscaped. We'll have fun with it. Morning, folks. We got US Dave. Dylan Von Ark's in the house. Good morning, Broncos country. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. Colin Woods in the house too. Mile High Truth. So let's get into it. Unless there's anybody that I am missing with the supers. Peter Middleton.
Yeah, Peter came in with us with some stars already. He says, "What's a surprise head coach selection from the list provided that actually has a genuine chance?" Well, for me, if the list is provided, then they're not a surprise. What I want to get into, and I want to get back to Ethan's comment about casting a wide net.
Sorry. Go ahead.
On casting a wide net, and then we'll make this comment, and then we'll get into it after a read. This is just the guys that you've been reported that you have to ask permission for. Mm-hmm. That's it. How about the guys that you don't have to ask permission for? How about the college guys? Who's missing from this list? There's not a single college guy on here. If you're going to cast a wide net, I won't be surprised if you're talking to some college people at all. I mean, obviously we've talked, some Jim Harbaugh and his possibility, but who aren't we thinking about? What's going on behind the scenes that we don't know? So I think this net's even wider than we think than the 8 guys that have been reported already.
I think we might be up to 9 guys. There was another guy reported this morning from Tom Pelissero saying the Broncos requested an interview with Packers quarterback coach, pass game coordinator Luke Getsy for the head coaching job. He's 37 years old and one of the big risers in that Matt LaFleur coaching staff. So could maybe some of these guys are interviewing for the defensive / offensive coordinator as well for these guys. So it would make a lot of sense to pair Nathaniel Hackett with a Getsy as the offensive coordinator, but we'll see. We'll get into it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And EJ's also where my head is at. Congrats to the Georgia Bulldogs for winning the championship with that defense. I told you, Scott, I did not think Bryce Young would have turn into God mode again last night. I thought that Georgia defense would be a little bit too much, and it looked like it was. Obviously, Jameson Williams going down changed the complexion of that game completely, losing Mechie and Jameson Williams, but it was a good game. Shout out to Georgia Bulldogs. It was not David versus Goliath. It was King Kong versus Godzilla, but still, congrats to Georgia. They have a good thing coming upon there in Georgia with the recruiting base that they have.
They showed some mental toughness that I don't necessarily have expected in the past from teams from these parts. Like the Falcons. And Nick, you're frozen up just a little bit. And just like the Braves, overcoming some adversity with injuries and stuff when normally they'd fold, when that turnover and then going behind and late in the game went against the Bulldogs, I wasn't sure they had it in them to come back. So that was a heck of a game. It really was. Congratulations to, I've got hundreds of Georgia Bulldog friends and family. So congratulations to all of you. I know that was a long time coming.
Yeah, Scott, and lead us into it. If there's any more supers coming in, I'm gonna close and come back in like 2 seconds just to wipe it clean.
We've got a couple supers. I think we're caught up on stars. Ethan's coming back in again, and then I'll come back and let me scroll down here. Jesse, that looks like a new name. Jesse Fraley. So welcome. And this is a good one for me, having covered the Falcons and growing up in Atlanta and being in Atlanta when Quinn was here. He says, I'm having a hard time believing in Dan Quinn. I'm looking at what he has done and I can't get excited. Am I missing something? It's a good question. The big thing I think you're looking at Quinn is just a change of environment. You talk about change in culture, and what you can get excited about is the players on this team, which we believe have the talent to be a playoff team, would be excited to play for him. That's a good thing. A 500 coach, and don't forget, a 500 coach and going to the Super Bowl with the Atlanta Falcons is a mean feat. I know what happened when they got there, but the Atlanta Falcons are closer to the Cleveland Browns than the Denver Broncos. It's a franchise that took 50 years to even have back-to-back winning seasons. They set the record for all of professional sports for going the longest without having back-to-back winning seasons. That's who the Atlanta Falcons are. That he had an 11-win season, a 12-win season, finished about 500, and went to the Super Bowl, and it probably should have won it. That can be seen as a plus and a minus. From this Falcons fan, that was seen as a plus. Am I advocating for him? No, but he is somebody who you could root for very well. Appreciate the support, Jesse, and welcome to the show. Vincent, definitely not new to the show. What do you guys think of Brian Flores as a candidate? Vincent, I'll tell you, I was a little surprised that he was let go. I had been kind of banging the drum all week saying that Vic Fangio is gone. Nobody survives 3 losing seasons. And I was like, well, you know what? Brian Flores is going to survive 3 losing seasons. No, he didn't. I thought that team definitely showed that they were on the way up, that they were improving. And that's what you're looking for as an administrator. If I'm judging my team, my players, my coaches, are we improving? That's all I ever ask. Get better. Always get better. If you're on the right track, you'll get to where you're going eventually. I was a little surprised he was let go. Do you have him as a head coaching candidate? You bring him in for an interview, find out where his head's at, find out what his contract is, with his buyout and stuff. Can you bring him in as a defensive coordinator? Does he want to rehabilitate his image for a year? Does he want to sit out a year? I would definitely talk to him for sure. But appreciate it, Vincent. And then welcome back in, Nick. And then one more. I know the answer to this one. Ethan comes in and says, Nick, were you surprised with the Eric Bieniemy request for a head coach for an interview? The Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator and former Colorado Buff.
Yeah, I was a tad surprised. Hopefully my internet's working here. But from my understanding is that it was more of a hat tip to some CU people and Eric Bieniemy himself, rather than a serious candidate as far as the head coaching vacancy is concerned. But we'll see. Obviously he has some issues in his past in regards to some behavior with co-eds in Colorado in his past. So that could make it harder to bring him in. But the Vance Joseph had those issues as well, and he was brought in. So who knows? Maybe it's a different time these days than when the Broncos hired Vance Joseph. But my understanding again is that it is more of a favor to Bieniemy and the CU people in Denver and Colorado themselves.
So yeah, a little surprised. And
Yeah.
Travis Tarbuck saying, "Morning, fellas. Congrats on the national championship, Scott. I'm not a Georgia fan. I grew up. I was a pro sports fan in Atlanta growing up. I've always been for the underdog. Call it. I'm masochistic. So I was actually a Georgia Tech fan with my college team growing up, and then I went to Auburn. So a 25-year-old me probably would have just sat in the corner and drank myself weeping to death watching Alabama and Georgia playing for a national championship. It's like, let's see, devil or demon, which one of these do I want to root for? Pain, maybe the whole place can blow up, but more mature these days. And I got to know Kirby Smart when I was working recruiting, and really am a big fan of his. And if you watched his interview afterwards and you know Kirby, it'd be hard not to be excited for him. Even giving credit to acknowledging the injuries that Alabama had. It's just a classy move. There's no excuses. A win's a win, a loss is a loss. If I know the Georgia fans weren't happy about the officiating, it goes both ways. But I think Kirby Smart is all class, and I'm happy for him. And like I said, I've got hundreds of Georgia Bulldog friends and family, and I'm happy for them too.
Yeah, no, Georgia deserved it. They were the best team, and man, so many fun players. We're gonna watch that game how many times before the draft? Just watching the
Well,
evaluating of
I didn't get to
talent.
watch the first half because I was in here with y'all. So I'm
Mm,
gonna watch that again and watch the field goal kicking.
yeah, it looked like a Big Ten game had broken out in Indianapolis. So I think maybe the ghost of Iowa was haunting
Except
that
on
game.
a 50%, speed increase.
Hey, now the Ohio State's got some speed. Let's be real. That's about it. No, yeah, it was a good game. Let's get into the list of some of these candidates. You can kind of poke through and see if there's any supers or anything. But man, what a list do we have so far? Broncos have requested permission to interview Jared Mayo, Dan Quinn, Kellen. I guess I should say what these guys are. Jared Mayo, the linebackers coach for the Patriots. Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator, former head coach of the Falcons, now defensive coordinator with the Cowboys. Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. Nathaniel Hackett, offensive coordinator for the Packers. Jonathan Gannon, the offensive no, is he the offensive coordinator or the quarterback coach for the Rams? One of the two. Pass game oriented for the Rams. Former NFL quarterback too, in Kevin O'Connell. Jonathan Gannon, defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. And Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator for the Lions. You also have the guy that we just talked about, Luke Getsy, the pass game coordinator and quarterback coach for the Packers. So what a list. And you talked about it. That didn't even touch everybody. That doesn't touch Doug Peterson. That doesn't touch Jim Caldwell. That doesn't touch any potential head college coach. So Peyton, I mean, God bless you. He is known as a workaholic. That's pretty obvious with the interviews. He's going to be doing a lot of time going through these candidates and getting the best one.
Yeah, you've got a month. You could spend this week interviewing a different person or two people a day and go through 15 people and narrow it down next week, to final interviews. So there's no rush. There really isn't. You're not the Jacksonville Jaguars, you're the Denver Broncos. You don't have to beat somebody. Dan Quinn, let's go back to Dan Quinn, told Jacksonville preemptively, thanks, but no thanks. I have better options. Denver's one of those better options. It's one of those teams. Now, I think you got to keep an eye on the Seattle Seahawks with Dan Quinn, depending on what happens over there in the near term. But you're one of those teams. You're not the Jaguars that has to get out in front of everybody. You can take your time a little bit, and good on George Paton for doing so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Will be interesting to see. Do any of these guys to you stand out? I'm interested. I mean, what I really like about this is that Peyton how many times did he talk about how impressed he was with Vic Fangio's work ethic? And like, there's a lot of talk about like Vic Fangio being the first one in, last one out, grinding tape, like to the point where the other coaches around him were like, falling apart. And that kind of feels like George Paton too with his interview process here for the head coach. Just the amount of names here, the amount of knowledge you're going to get. I really like that they're bringing in a guy like Jonathan Gannon, Kevin O'Connell, Aaron Glenn, and Jared Mayo, not just to figure out how those operations run, but just getting different defenses as well. I mean, Jared Mayo with the Patriots running that 5-0-5 front, a lot of cover one press man. No team is doing what the Patriots are doing schematically right now. And to get Jared Mayo in here to kind of lean some of the thoughts and processes of Bill Belichick and what that defense is doing might give you a leg up because, we see that too high defense, the match quarters spreading across the league. Soon there'll be more competition for those kind of players and those type of coaches. So maybe you want to lean the other way with that 5-0-5 front what the Patriots are running. So it will be interesting to see. I'm really excited about this wide net. I don't really have anybody that I am pounding the table for a head coach, just because I can't evaluate a head coach like I can a player. I can't see how good a head coach is at grinding the tape like I can see an edge rusher busting off the edge. It's a different kind of game. So
especially the up and coming ones that don't
Yeah.
have the track record. It's tough. It's tougher. It's a risk.
Yep.
You've got to take your chance on that. Michael Ranquillo coming in with big stars.
Ooh.
So appreciate you coming in, Michael. Good morning, Nick and Scott. Good morning to you, Michael. And Tucson on Broncos for breakfast, and go Broncos for sure. Definitely.
Go Broncos, go Broncos. Great to have you here, Michael. We appreciate you. Guys, I'm excited. It's 2022. Cheers to 2022 and resolutions that you can actually keep. How about having how about having clean and shiny balls all year round? Our sponsors at Manscaped are here to save your balls this year and make the ball drop into 2022 the cleanest and sexiest ever. Set your first New Year's resolution with good intentions and join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use our promo code MHH for 20% off and free shipping. Last year, I really enjoyed the crop mops when I was in the backcountry, because when you're out there hiking for a little bit and it gets a little sweaty out there. I'm a sweater myself. I get a little bit hot and heavy. So having the crop mop in the backcountry did me a world of good. They also, of course, have the all their products, and it's not just the ball trimmers. They have the crop mop. They have the good cologne as well. All that stuff's really good. It's a new year, new me with global leaders and with below the waist grooming. This year, take your package to the next level with the Performance Package 4.0 and a brand new ultra premium body wash. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you'll find the Signature Lawnmower 4.0, which is, the flagship of Manscaped. This electric trimmer is designed to trim hair on loose skin, which can be important if you've ever had an issue shaving on loose skin. The advanced skin-safe technology reduces cuts and nicks on your delicate nuts area. It also comes equipped with a 4,000K LED spotlight that will shine a light in the promised land 2022 looks to be.
All this talk about balls, but I'll tell you what, when you start losing hair up here and it starts coming out in other places, I'm interested in, the different type of grooming kits they have above the waist as well, which I know they're certainly into. For guys like me, I can't keep hair on my head, but it starts coming out of my ears. That gets a little embarrassing. But get 20% off and free shipping with the code MHH at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code MHH.
Gotta love it. I mean, gosh, just have fun with it, right? That's one of those things where it's the dirtier the better. I need all the puns. Sean coming in, Sean DeBakey. I don't recognize this name, so welcome in, Sean. Yeah, thank you so much. Good morning to you. Good morning, gents, says Sean. Hope all is well. Really good after that ball read. Out of the 8 requests, who do you think will be the guy? I still think it's going to be Dan Quinn. I think there's just too much smoke there. It is a relationship league. And Dan Quinn, they can bring in a Mike McDaniel. They could bring in an O'Connell, somebody to kind of have more of that offensive side. But I think it's going to be Dan Quinn. The way Peyton interviewed with the Broncos media about what they're looking for, leadership, somebody who's not just an expert on one side, but can elevate the guys around them, blah, blah, blah. It all just, to me, leads and points to Dan Quinn.
Well, and don't forget, some of these guys are like, well, this is a quarterback's coach. Is he ready for, really the head coaching job? Who says it has to be for a head coaching job? Yeah. You can bring him in under the premise of, head coaching job, but how'd you like to be the offensive coordinator? This is what we're looking for here. So anytime you see, Mayo, linebackers coach. Maybe it's an upgrade to a DC or something like that. Because, those positions, while not the offensive coordinator position is open, the defensive coordinator position is on hold, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's certainly available for the right word. So keep that in mind as well. I don't know. I don't have a feeling for this, Nick. I really don't. I feel like Dan Quinn in Seattle makes sense to me if that position opens. It really does. You talk about comfort level and success and being embraced by, he'd be universally embraced by the Seahawks, where, right now at best the pulse of the Broncos fans is meh at best for Dan Quinn. Well, he'd be loved in Seattle. So, I don't know. I don't quite feel that one yet. It's too early for me to say this is how I'm feeling about it. I don't know. Maybe just because Zach is so hyped about it. Nathaniel Hackett, it starts. That's the one who's like ticking the back of my brain a little bit just because of all the talk about him. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we got a question coming in from Obi-Wan K. Probably Obi-Wan Kenobi there. Good thing you found your internet there in that cave. Obi-Wan. Why is there no interest in Clint Kubiak with his ties to Denver and Minnesota? That's a good question. I'm surprised they're not bringing in, at least requesting an interview with Clint Kubiak. I don't know the dynamics of what that organization had with Clint Kubiak. I mean, is Clint still under contract? I don't remember him getting outright fired like Zimmer was. So maybe Clint Kubiak is still under contract with the Minnesota Vikings, and that means that they'd have to request to interview him. And it's kind of weird there since the Vikings just fired Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer. Like, who are you requesting to? So I do think that Clint might have a chance down the line. I think this was his first year with play calling duties as well, if I recall. So he's got a chance down the line, but it might be a year early on him just yet. But still, good name to call out. He's got a future in this league where he'll be an offense coordinator. I'm sure he'll get some interviews, just considering how badly people want to run that wide zone Shanahan spread.
Yeah, Peter coming in with some stars earlier, and thanks for the reminder, Peter. I did miss this one. Broncos went for an experienced guy over the young up-and coaches last time. Can see them taking the risk for a younger coach this time. And it's strange. I've mentioned this before. You went for an inexperienced old dude. Those are contradictions. I hear that word thrown around a lot when the subject of Vic Fangio comes up and how he does things, and it was very contradicting. That hire was a contradiction. Like I've said before, I feel like when I'm talking about him and the mistakes he's making, I feel like I'm talking about a 30-year-old kid. It felt strange to me to lambaste a guy for being immature that's a decade older than me and is, in his 60s. It just felt strange. So while you did go for an experienced guy, he definitely wasn't experienced at the rigors of the head coach. And what's the big shock to those guys the first time is how little football they actually have to get to deal with when you are the head coach, and how much of the other stuff. And I don't think he had any interest. I don't think Vic had any interest in the PR aspect of things, the man management of things and all that. He's like, listen, I want to be the mad scientist. I want to run my defense and be with these guys. Who was the best at that? It was probably Buddy Ryan. Buddy Ryan actually was so defensive minded. They started fights. It was always us against them, and this is on the same team. Vic reminds me a little bit of that.
Yeah, I guess Bill Belichick maybe a little bit too, with how integrated he is in the defense, and kind of not that he's hands off on the offense, but Josh McDaniels, there's a lot of trust with that especially when Brady was there too. But it'll be interesting to bring. I don't really have, again, this is not good radio or good talk show, but like I don't really have a fiery take on any of these coaches. I can tell you I don't really want Bieniemy. It sounds like, and this is from, Broncos media reporter Eric Goodman, I think, was talking about it as well, that Bieniemy, the Chiefs would like Bieniemy to be elevated because they have a lot of eyes and want to retain Mike Kafka, who is their QB coach right now. And the Chiefs would probably move on from Eric Bieniemy if it meant that they had a chance to lose Mike Kafka. That's where Eric Goodman was.
Or that's a Kansas City reporter that is leaking stuff because they want to get Kafka hired. Ooh, maybe I should go hire this guy. You know how things work. It's tough.
It does sound like Kafka was somebody that is really beloved and like has opened some eyes in that Kansas City team. He's a former Northwestern guy, former Northwestern head quarterback, pretty smart and been in the league for a bit as a coach. So he'll be an interesting one as well. But it does sound like the Chiefs would not be heartbroken if Bieniemy moved on because they are head over heels with Kafka. We'll see if it plays out that way. Time
I'm
passes.
calling my shot now. 20 years, 2042, the hot name for head coaching, Nakobe Dean.
Nakobe Dean. There you go. I mean, gosh, he's is that the Jared Mayo take there coming up the linebacker?
He's just sorry to change subject on this, but just thinking of, guys that have done it. And when you said Northwestern, I was like, all right, smart guys. Okay, that's good. And I'm thinking, okay, Nakobe Dean, linebacker from Georgia, number 17. If you haven't seen him, probably go in the first round this year.
Oh, for sure.
Graduated with an engineering degree in 3 years. Team captain, ticks all the boxes.
Yeah.
Ticks all the boxes. So, that's could Mayo be somebody like that? I don't know, but Nakobe Dean is somebody that I'm looking for. Where can I find somebody that in a 30-year-old that reminds me of Nakobe Dean now?
Yeah, no, Nakobe Dean was fun last night. I hope you got your eyes on Jalen Carter as well. Jordan Davis had a good game. We can save the national championship takes for later because the Broncos are in the midst of the coaching stuff, but it was a good game. I did want to get into just in general, the people are talking about Hackett here. Do you have any thoughts about Nathaniel Hackett? I know he hasn't had the best offenses historically, but he did have fine offenses with some pretty bad personnel. They didn't sustain success, but I think that's, again, you guys know, I'll say this 100 times. It's a Jimmy's and Joe's league. I think the coaches can elevate guys, maybe 10%, 15%, but in the end, it comes down to that inherent greatness in those individual players and staying self-motivated. These are adults, right? Like these aren't kids, these are adults. But Hackett's personality, what he's done offensively, the minds he's been around, maybe that's a good direction for the Broncos to go, to have some retention and stability on the offensive side of the ball.
Yvonne comes in and he has the question that I have. Is Hackett the real deal, or is it another Gase case sold by his Hall of Fame quarterback? I don't know. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't know the league well enough to say this is the guy I want from this position and this. So I've got to do some studying for Thursday's show for sure. Okay. I'll who are some of the guys we think that we can be? I know Dan Quinn better, so I can speak on him, but I don't know Nathaniel Hackett. Again, if you look at the numbers, if you cross guys that have been fired in the NFL off your list, you don't have anybody left. Yeah. It's a 3-and-out job for the most part, especially assistants. If you're good, you're moving up. If you're real good, you're moving on. If someone ahead of you doesn't do so well, then they're getting fired and you're going to go with them. It's just the way it is.
Yep.
So I don't know why he didn't have the same kind of success. I mean, I know one of the reasons he didn't have Aaron Rodgers, but that becomes part of the question is, is it Charlie Weiss? Is it Josh McDaniels? Is it Joe Brady? These guys that are, at least those the previous two had some longer success because they were in the NFL and had Tom Brady for multiple years. But what can Nathaniel Hackett do without Aaron Rodgers? Yeah. I don't know the answer to that question, and I will do a little more digging and find out. At least come up with a better opinion.
Yeah, thank you, Yvonne, for the comment. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. We got Reginald coming in here saying, what about getting defensive end Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama? That's going to take a path where the Broncos are going to lose a lot of games next year. Will Anderson is a sophomore, so he won't be eligible until the 2023 draft. If he was eligible in this draft, he would be going before Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah, you're going to need at least a number 3 pick to get Will Anderson in 2023.
Yep. He is... he's probably the best edge rushing prospect to come out since Myles Garrett. I think not a 1-for-1 type of player, but like that caliber of edge rusher.
Going back in time a little bit, and I think people forget just how good this man was, but was the late great Derek Thomas. With his explosion and flexibility, I see more of Derek Thomas in him than I do, some of the other guys. I mean, I think Derek Thomas had like a 30-sack season or something. I mean, people forget just how amazing he was, not just in college, just period.
Yeah. Broncos fans don't forget. They know Derek Thomas.
That's who he reminds me of is that's the ceiling. Obviously, Derek Thomas is one of the greatest ever put on a helmet.
Yeah, really, really good player. We got Evan coming in here saying, thanks, Nick and Scott. Thank you, Evan. I don't know what you're thanking us for, but God bless you. How about you turn that thank you around and thank you? He's probably
Yeah,
thanking us
thank
for that.
you. Again, talking about new names.
Yeah.
Evan, I don't remember seeing your name on here. So welcome to the show. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no, thank you, Evan. He's probably thanking us for that amazing Manscaped read. There's just people are buzzing. We're trending on Twitter right now. Any of these other coaches, let's get through some more of these. So Dan Quinn, Scott, if the Broncos hired Dan Quinn, you got to be the inside guy. Why did Dan Quinn fail in Atlanta due to things he could control? What could he control that he failed at that he needs to get right in this next time he gets a head coaching gig?
He missed his hire. Let me grab it. He missed his hire when they're replacing Kyle Shanahan. That was the biggest problem he had that he could control. The stuff that he couldn't control, at least from the outside, maybe he's the one telling Thomas Dimitroff, "I don't need linemen or defensive players. Meh, I don't need those guys." I have a hard time believing that, so I throw most of that at Thomas Dimitroff. Dan Quinn missed on the hire replacing Kyle Shanahan. The Falcons had the number one offense in the NFL and replaced him with a guy with a sketchy past at best in Steve Sarkisian, who had never been an offensive coordinator in the NFL. And I might just say disgraced, disgraced out of the college ranks. I think the tweet I put out there was, if there's anybody that can help the Falcons get over a Super Bowl hangover, it would be Steve Sarkisian. That was a kick in the nuts from me to a guy who is almost 25 years sober, to a guy that had pissed away a humongous opportunity at USC and Washington with his own problems and didn't deserve this shot as an offensive coordinator with the Falcons. Had the biggest historic drop in the history of the NFL for a number one offense in his first year, and didn't fire him. Didn't move on after 1 year. As soon as that happened, he lost the team. As far as I'm concerned, it didn't come out that way, but in my mind, and I was right, this team's done. This team's done. If you don't make that change, this team is done. Yeah. And they were. So they went from should have won the Super Bowl, playoff, losing the game at the end, at the fourth quarter, last play of the game against the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs, like 11-6, somewhere in there, to boom, they were done.
Yeah.
And that was at the hands of, that was a missed offensive coordinator hire in Steve Sarkisian.
Steve. Now the head coach of the Texas Longhorns. We'll see how that goes. We got Fabio coming in here saying, just wanted to say go Broncos from Italy. Forza, Azzurri. All right, let's go. Hope this year is going to be better with all the changes. Italy, great country. Have you been to Italy, Scott?
I have a couple of times, actually. So, Fabio, who's your team? Who's your team out there? No, you're a Broncos guy, so appreciate you being here. But who's your other team?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Juventus. They have a horse on them too.
We'll see. So. We'll see. It's very, could be, depending on where he is. Could be Inter. Could be a Jose Mourinho guy. Could be AS Roma.
That would be great. We got, what else is great? Ethan. God bless you, Ethan. Coming in $15 saying, so it was more Shanahan's responsibility for Atlanta's success, not Quinn. I mean, Shanahan obviously had an incredible offensive scheme there, and they did a lot of good stuff. But like Dan Quinn did a lot of good stuff too. They had Matt Ryan.
A lot of resources were poured into that offense too.
Yeah.
In fact, all of the resources were poured into that offense too.
Yep.
If you're looking for the final piece, the best move that Thomas Dimitroff made in his tenure with the Atlanta Falcons was signing Alex Mack as a center to a big free agent contract and solidifying that offensive line. Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
That's something like Napoli. Nice. As far as, solidifying the offensive line and getting a leader that makes the two guys on either side of you better, bringing Alex Mack in was huge. Is there a guy like that for the Broncos this year? Lloyd Cushenberry, God bless him, is serviceable, but he's not a bell cow. He's not the guy that's going to elevate the two guys on either side of him the way that happened. So Vic Beasley had a monster year. I think he had like 16 sacks that season. Yeah. I don't think he had 16 sacks in the rest of his career.
I think he had half of those against the Broncos.
Around top 5. So going into that season. And then they peaked at the right time. They were you saw how good they were until they Falconed it up.
Yep. Yeah, I think Vic Beasley had half his sacks that season against the Broncos. He had like a 5-sack game or something against Paxton Lynch and Ty Sambrailo. And then the Falcons traded for Ty Sambrailo. They sent us like a 4th-round pick or something. You guys, it's like sitting on the whoopee cushion. We were just waiting to laugh, and you guys sent us draft capital for Ty Sambrailo.
Oh, Thomas Dimitroff is the gift that just keeps on giving. Got $16 more million of Julio Jones on the cap next year.
God bless.
Thanks,
Arthur.
Thomas.
Arthur coming in too. Much love from Germany. That's my homeland up there in Ostfriesland, North Germany area. So thank you so much. We got Michael coming in here. More stars, I am sure. I just want the right guy that can take the Denver Broncos organization into the future. A lot of futures coming, and you better be ready for it, because you're talking about a new head coach, a new offensive staff, defensive staff, maybe. Ed Donatell's still there. That's kind of the interesting. We'll see how that plays out without Donatell still being here. And then, of course, the new ownership. So future's happening now.
I think you got the guy. I think you got the right guy.
You think they'll keep Ed Donatell?
No. His name's George Paton.
Oh, that guy.
Yes. If you read the statement for literally, I just want the right guy that can take the Denver Broncos organization into the future. That's a broad statement, and it could go from ownership, it could go to general manager. And right now, you look at Joe Ellis saying, I've screwed this up enough. I want to be done with this. For everybody's sake, I'm giving it to George. Is George the right guy? Is George Paton the right guy? There's a lot of good signs there that says that he is. And, you might have him already, which is a very gratifying thing for Broncos fans.
Yeah, very gratifying indeed. Hopefully he'll be the guy. That would be amazing. We'll see. I mean, I guess I'd be really afraid that if he comes in this year, let's say that the Broncos can't get Aaron Rodgers, they can't get Russell Wilson, which again, I feel like just because last year I was hurt so bad by it that it feels like I'm just like writing it off as pie in the sky. But if they can't get the guy this year, and it's another situation next season where it's a Bridgewater-esque quarterback plus Drew Lock, and leading you to 7 to 9 wins again, then what does that owner do with George Paton? Can he be like, well, you've had 2 years here, and both times you've been bad or mediocre. So see ya. So it makes me a little concerned that they might be a little desperate at the quarterback position, and that leads to outright stupidity. Hello, trading up for Paxton Lynch when your best option was Trevor Siemian and Mark Sanchez on your roster. Stupidity. Peter Middleton coming in here saying Donatell is making a sensible risk as Fangio will DC, and he's hoping to stay in the position. So Donatell's making a sensible risk as Fangio will be DC.
Right now, there's nothing that is set in stone.
Yeah.
But it was, this was, he goes in and, if idiots like us can say, okay, who are the 3 guys that have to go off this staff, then it's pretty obvious to, it got done. It got done. It's nice when the obvious happens. I hate it when people try and outsmart themselves. So who got fired? Shermer, McMahon, Fangio. The other ones haven't been fired, but it will be up to the discretion of the guy coming in on whether or not he wants to keep them or build their own staff.
Yeah.
And that's tough. It is. It's tough. If you don't have a previous relationship with these guys, you don't know, can I trust these guys? Can I go in and know that, he's not going back to the general manager, second guessing everything I do. And I don't think Donatell's going to be someone like that. He doesn't strike me as somebody like that. So, you're coming in, you don't have to keep any of these guys, but you've got that option, which is nice because, you can move forward with a current defensive coordinator and then maybe dial it up some. Say, okay, Fangio was so adverse to risk. Now I want to have a little fun. We don't know that, but we could find out next year. And it's a good position to be in, knowing that at worst you've got Donatell there to take over.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you. And I really like the scheme which Vic Fangio runs. I think that the issue this year wasn't the scheme, why the Broncos defense kind of wilted in key moments. It's this team just didn't have horses on the front 7. They just didn't. Bradley Chubb playing on one leg. Malik Reed is a backup at best, a 7th-round rookie. Shelby Harris is fine. Mike Purcell getting pushed around. Your linebackers are to, the 4th and 5th guy on the depth chart. The only guy in that front 7 that I'm hanging my hat on that could start on most teams is Draymond Jones. The rest of them are league average at best.
I'm willing to give Mike Purcell a little bit of a pass, not for his play, but, looking through the contracts, he's getting paid less than the punter. Or the kicker. I can't remember which one.
McManus is making
he's a $2 million a year guy. That's your starting nose guard.
Yeah.
You know,
Not a
I
lot of
mean,
snaps,
you
but
kind of got what you paid for there. That's reserve interior lineman money at best.
yep.
Um, so yeah, you got what you paid for there, and I'm willing to give the defense a little bit of a pass. Again, I'd like to see them be a little more aggressive. In today's dink and dunk offenses are so proficient at doing that the bend and don't break doesn't do it for me. But you needed a little more help from your offense. You know, if your offense is driving down and keeping the ball and converting third downs and putting points on the board, your defense all of a sudden gets a lot better. I promise you.
Yeah, we're gonna have all offseason to get into it. I mean, issues with losing consistently on first and second down against the run, not many third and long opportunities where you can get exotic looks. I mean, I remember that Raiders game, the Broncos had like 1 third and long, and it was a strip sack where they used a twist and stunt with Shelby Harris, and he came around and got the strip sack. And it's like, oh, when you have third and long, Vic Fangio actually used some exotic looks to create pressure, but couldn't do it enough. And I just don't think they have the horses in the front seven this season, especially with Von Miller getting traded and Bradley Chubb playing on one leg. I think they were the post Von Miller trade. They were they had the 4th lowest pressure rate of any team in the NFL this season. So some of that is on the offense, but still, it's a unit that needs probably a couple more winners in the front seven. I'm willing to give Baron Browning a pass, and if you brought back Josie Jewell, I think you're fine at linebacker next season. But on the defensive line, just not many winners right now. Scott, will you do any live shows at the Senior Bowl?
The way the schedule is set up, our schedule shouldn't change. So practice runs, I think, from 10:30 Central, which is 11:30 Eastern, till about 2:30 Central, which is 3:30. So it shouldn't interfere. I plan on going out Monday night. So, and then I'll be at practice. So we'll have Monday Broncos for breakfast, Monday for the Huddle Up Pod, Tuesday Broncos for breakfast, shouldn't interfere, and then I'll go straight to practice from there. If anything, I want to start adding some things. So maybe I do something Senior Bowl live shows before we do Huddle Up Pod on Wednesday night, or we do Huddle Up Pod Wednesday night from the Senior Bowl, and that's me and Nick doing it maybe on Wednesday night. All of that's up in the air, but if anything, nothing's going to change as far as subtractions from the shows that we do on Wednesday mornings and Thursday morning, Tuesday. Nothing's going to change in the morning. If anything, we're going to add. We're going to add shows so that we can take advantage of being down there and seeing all of these Senior Bowls, the Senior Bowl players. So appreciate the question. Man. I'm pretty excited about it, actually.
You should be. I'm hoping you have good weather. That would be amazing. Gosh, all the quarterbacks that are down there too. I know that is. I talk a lot with a good bit with Andrew Mason, who I respect a heck of a lot. Been covering the Broncos beat for a decade plus. And he's saying that the Broncos, if they don't get Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, to prepare yourself for a first round quarterback. So I'm gonna have to trust your eyes down there, Scott. And hopefully the Broncos end up with the best guy. And hopefully this head coaching hire can kind of start to create a vision for what the Broncos might do at the quarterback position. I'm still at the exact same spot where I was a month ago when you talked to me. There are 6 guys here, and God bless me if I can separate them 1 through 6. So just give me the guy that's the smallest investment, and if they hit, that's awesome. If they don't hit, I'm back to the drawing board in 2023. But that's not always the best way to go with the quarterback position. That's just how I'm comfortable right now.
Yeah, it should be a lot more fun because there's so many more eyes on the quarterbacks. Last year, the only decent quarterback I thought that could play that could end up being a guy. Period. Because I wasn't a big fan of Kellen Mond.
Or as Mike Zimmer.
Do not draft Jamie Newman or Felipe Franks. There was talk about him. I saw people had Jamie Newman. I completely forgot about Jamie Newman until his name came up last night in the game. I'm like, that's right. That's the guy that people were asking me about in the 2nd or 3rd round. I said, he looks out of place. He's the only guy that looks like he shouldn't be here at all.
Yeah.
Why are people talking about drafting this guy? Because he had a bunch of stars next to his name as a recruit or what? Because he was not it. But this one, there should be 5 or 6 guys down there that are going to be draft picks. They're going to be high draft picks. And whether they can play or not, is this going to be the Christian Ponder year where everybody lost their freaking minds and was overreaching at quarterback? I won't necessarily know, but I'll have a pretty good idea coming in, saying, no, this is, you never know. You never know. Trust me. But
especially at quarterback,
you get a better idea than you get a better idea when you get a chance to watch them live out there for sure.
Yeah. We got Keone coming in here. Aloha and good morning, fellas. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. We got Alberto coming in saying, why isn't Matt Corral playing in that game? Is Matt Corral eligible? I don't know if he's eligible. I think he's a junior.
He got hurt too.
He got hurt as well. I think it's only a high ankle sprain.
He got hurt in the bowl, so I don't want him out there necessarily. He's got enough Q rating that he can run his own pro day and do his own private workouts. And these teams will go to wherever he happens to be working out, whether it's Oxford or his hometown or whatever, Oxford, Mississippi, or if he's working out with a trainer, they'll go see him multiple times. So
no, he's an interesting one. Matt Corral probably will be my quarterback one, but I'm not going to have a first round grade on a single one of these guys. I like them all. I don't love any of them. If Carson Strong didn't have the knee issues, I went through this weekend. I went through games of his junior season and this last year of Carson Strong, and some of it is the air raid, but like the deep ball accuracy difference that he has compared to Sam Howell is night and day. That dude can sling the rock. He's not a great athlete. He's not a twitchy athlete, so to speak, but he does enough in the pocket while keeping his head still downfield, looking to attack, looking to make big plays. You're not going to make big plays unless you're looking to make them, and he does that at a good clip. So I'm excited to see what he can do. It's just the knee concerns me.
I was at the Senior Bowl one year, and I think it was Andrew Luck's year, and I remember thinking, there's nobody here that's going to make you forget that Andrew Luck isn't. I kind of feel that way about this, watching Bryce Young again last night. Like there's nobody here that's going to make you forget that Bryce Young's out there lurking next year.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. If you can use a middle round pick, trade back and take a guy this year and still go bad and get Bryce Young next year.
Yeah, I thought the Broncos were a year off on everything they did surrounding Drew Lock. They should have done bad dog. Not you, Summit. You're good. He's in his kennel sleeping. I thought the Broncos were a year off constantly with Drew Lock. I was fine with what they did rookie year, giving him those 5 games, but they should have done a Teddy Bridgewater-esque thing again in 2022 and not left him out there to dry, especially knowing what we know, how that 2020 played out. And then maybe you'd have a better idea or protected Lock a little bit more because he looked better this season than he ever did in 2020. And I think a lot of that should be, not a lot, but some of that I can contribute to Teddy Bridgewater saying, look, you don't have to score a touchdown every single play. This isn't race for the Heisman on your NCAA campaign on your PS2, right? Like just run the offense, protect the ball, and you're going to give yourself a chance. And he did that this year to his credit. Last year I was ready to move on from Drew Lock. This year, if they keep Drew Lock and bring in, veteran X with a day 2 pick at quarterback, I get it. I have no issue with that because I thought he played pretty well down the stretch. I was impressed. But unfortunately, they've been off a year constantly. We'll see what happens with the quarterbacks here. Any of these other names that you want to get into, Scott, before we keep on trucking and getting us on out of here?
As far as I want to hit this name, because again, a new name for me is it looks like Dwayne. That's a different spelling, but I like different because Nick, Scott, Chad, our names are kind of boring. So I always pay attention to the more unique spelling of names. I like that stuff. But Dwayne coming in with some stars, so thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm interested in the names that we haven't heard. I'm interested in like you said earlier, Jim Caldwell. Jim Caldwell, I mentioned that winning with the Atlanta Falcons is not easy. Winning with the Detroit Lions is probably even harder. Yeah. And Jim Caldwell had a decent run with the Lions before he was let go. Doug Peterson, is he out there, and who would he bring in as a staff? That's going to be one of the questions is, who do you want? That's going to be one of George Paton's questions is, okay, we're interested. Who do you want as a staff? How would you build the team around here? How would you use the pieces you've got? Going back to the Drew Lock discussion. I think we said on here last week, I think it was you and I, Nick, like, Drew Lock right now is your floor. That's basically as bad as it should get. And that's not all bad, but I don't want to put all my eggs in that basket either. Obviously, Drew Lock, while has shown improvement, I don't, he threw for 1 touchdown in 3 games. He was 0-3. He's lost about 6 straight. He's still not there yet. He has shown improvement. There's obviously reasons for him to get better, but I don't want to strap my wagon to there just yet. I want to make sure that there's plenty of options. And, again, Paton has said, maybe not indirectly or directly, we've got to improve the quarterback. Whether that's with who we've got or we bring in somebody new, the quarterback play has to get better. And it does. It absolutely does.
Yep, it does. I also like that Peyton's talked about the trenches as well in his interviews recently, talking about building up on those guys, and they have a good foundation, but they're looking to get better there. So, that's something that I'm very interested in them doing. And you talked about Dan Quinn failing because Dimitroff did not invest enough in the trenches. I don't think that's going to be an issue with Peyton, especially with Peyton seeing what just happened to Rick Spielman.
No, Dan Quinn will have and it's not even just that. Look at the cap situation that Thomas Dimitroff left. And all that was started under Dan Quinn. It's unbelievable. Go through Spot Rack and pick up the Atlanta Falcons, and you will go down to dead cap, go down to next year and look at top cap hits, and you're going to say, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
The number 1 cap hit in the NFL next year, Matt Ryan. The number 2 inside linebacker, Deion Jones. The number 3 offensive tackle, Jake Matthews. You're $15 million in dead cap to Julio Jones. No, God, no. Meanwhile, you got monopoly money in Denver. And part of that, to their credit, is the previous regime, is not getting yourself into bad contracts. So Peyton, again, it was a good time to leave Minnesota. They just wiped everybody out. But Peyton took a good job. He took a good job. He might be the right guy, but Denver Bronco is a very good situation to be in. And Michael, appreciate you being here. Thanks for the stars throughout the morning, my friend.
Yep. Thank you so much, Michael. We appreciate it. And Colin was waiting for the other shooter drop because I said something nice about Locke, so I always balance that with.
Sorry, I was getting rid of that one.
It's okay.
Colin here. Colin's been salty all New Year. Colin's been in a bad mood since, I don't know if it was before Christmas or not, but it was definitely since New Year. I noticed that Colin's been super salty.
Yeah, it's okay, Colin. I was just saying I was impressed by Drew Lock. I didn't have high expectations coming in, and he surpassed them. So. Take that as you will. Just here to give the best opinion I can. I'm not here to pull punches either. Jetty Splash. Hi, good morning. If it's not been discussed yet, why is Shermer's name still on the roster on the Broncos website? Please. The Broncos website's been pretty slow all season with like depth chart stuff and injury stuff. So I'm not reading too much into it. Pat Shermer is effectively gone. I would not worry your pretty little head, Jetty Splash. It's going to be fine.
Don't worry that the admin writers, the digital manager hasn't kept up with it.
Yeah.
They're gone. It was a 3. It was Shermer, McMahon, and Fangio. Yeah. Get out. We don't care who's coming in. We don't want you here anymore. The others, the meeting was, we've made a change. There will be a new guy, and he will have a chance to interview you. Your contract for now is still being honored.
Yeah.
That's the conversation.
And some other guys that I did want to shout out here, just some coaches, since we're doing a lot of coach talk here. The Lions are moving on from Anthony Lynn as the offensive coordinator, former head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. The Broncos are not going to bring him in to be a head coach, obviously, but Anthony Lynn does have some history with the organization, and he is a good coach. Maybe not a good offensive coordinator, but there's definitely a chance, maybe running back coach replacing Curtis Motkins, so keep an eye out for him. Somebody also who I think, not a head coaching candidate, but I know that the Panthers are interviewing him or requested to interview, and I'd be all about interviewing him as well, is Pep Hamilton, who is the offensive coordinator, I believe. He's either offensive coordinator or quarterback coach with the Houston Texans. And the year prior to that, he was the offensive coordinator / quarterback coach with the Chargers. So back-to-back years. Justin Herbert's rookie season. Davis Mills' rookie season. I'd be interested in bringing in Pep Hamilton too, at least for an interview, seeing like, hey, what's in the sauce? What are you doing for those quarterbacks to maximize them? Because I mean, Herbert was a number 7 overall pick, but I don't think anybody saw him breaking records in I guess 2020 offenses across the league were at an all-time high. But still, I mean, that was incredible. And what he did with Davis Mills this year, who was an afterthought in this quarterback class. So Pep Hamilton, I think, deserves some eyeballs as well.
Good shout. I think the one name that was interesting to me was Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator of Detroit Lions. Detroit was not a good team this year, but you want to talk about a team that was fairly easy to root for, the way that they went out and played hard constantly. I watched the Detroit. You guys didn't get to see Detroit Lions really play. The Detroit Lions were a better team, than you saw because they had a B squad out there. They played at about a 500 level down the stretch. And overall for the season, the Detroit Lions held the Falcons to their fourth lowest yardage total for a 17-game season. That's pretty good defense. They've had some investment into the defensive side of the ball, but their defense played really well. That team played really hard. I think Aaron Glenn is a good shout to pick his brain a little bit and bring him in for an interview.
Yeah, absolutely. DWI guys, Ethan coming back in. Another colored chat here. So God bless you, man. That's incredible. Favorite football movie line is from Coach Penn in Draft Day. I hate rookie quarterbacks. They're stupid and they're scared.
They're arrogant.
They're arrogant. Yeah, that's none of these rookie quarterbacks I feel great about coming in and playing day one. I could see a path where Kenny Pickett or Desmond Ridder come in and start day one out of the gate, given their experience. And man, I was really hoping Desmond Ridder would have a good game against Alabama. I need to go back and kind of put all his games concurrently. But I think he's a really, really smart quarterback. I think they put a lot on his plate, but he sometimes is a little bit quick with the processing, or a little slow with the processing, stays on that first read, and his accuracy is a little bit hit or miss. But I think you could easily run a RPO heavy Frank Reich Indianapolis Colts style offense with Desmond Ridder to solid success.
Alabama, he's not the first and he won't be the last quarterback to not look great against an Alabama defense. I mean, especially on the biggest stage when Nick Saban has some time to prep for you. I like Draft Day is a good show. That was a good movie. I did enjoy that one.
Yeah. I enjoy Rock Lake Angus coming in here with $10. Thank you so much contributing to our show. Good to see you, Rock Lake. Good morning, guys. Do you think Rich Scangarello will get consideration for offensive coordinator? I do not. Does not sound like Scangarello is the prize pig over there in San Francisco. It sounds like Mike McDaniel is the guy that you should be interested in over there. He's the offensive coordinator. He's not calling plays for them, but he has been a rising star for years. I remember talking about him and talking to people in the league about him when the Broncos hired Rich Scangarello. It's like, well, why did they bring in Rich Scangarello instead of Mike McDaniel when San Francisco raves about Mike McDaniel and haven't heard the same about Rich Scangarello to the same extent as Mike McDaniel? They wanted Rich Scangarello because he had more experience with quarterbacks than Mike McDaniel did, where Mike McDaniel was more of the run game, offensive line kind of guy. But keep an eye out, Mike McDaniel, Denver native. He's going to be a head coach eventually in this league. He's the next in line for that Kyle Shanahan team, not Rich Scangarello.
Good stuff, Nick. Peter coming in saying, will some potential head coaches refuse the job without new ownership coming in? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, it could actually be seen as a positive, to be honest with you. You sign me to a 5-year, $50 million deal and only give me 1 year of it, and you're going to pay me out $50 million and I can go get another job. So the coaches are arrogant enough to believe that they can fix whatever ails a team for the most part. And there's not much that ails the Denver Broncos. I see a good roster. I see a good GM. I see a great fan base, and I see lots of cap money. Let's go to work. Those things matter so much more than who the owner is. Is my check clearing? Am I getting paid? We're good. So I'm not too worried about that. And Peyton was asked about that again, and he's like, and you expect him to say this? Okay. I really don't think it's much of a factor. Yes, I expect him to say that, but I agree with him. Sometimes what you hear GM speak, there's a phrase I like to use, just because I'm biased doesn't mean I'm wrong. George Paton is definitely biased. He has every reason to say that ownership isn't going to affect this. Oh man, it really sucks with the ownership situation. Hopefully we can get somebody to come in and coach his team. No, he's not going to say that. But I agree with him. I just don't think it's that big a deal.
I agree with you on that in that front. Thank you very much, Peter, for the comment here. The last thing I want to say before getting out of here, I keep forgetting to bring it up, but the name we haven't even talked about in here yet is shocking firing. Brian Flores, fired after 3 years. I guess you mentioned it earlier with the Miami Dolphins. I would, on the surface, I think Brian Flores would make a heck of a lot of sense for Denver. And shout out to George Paton too. Maybe this doesn't deserve to be shouted out, but Broncos interviewing 3 minority head coaching candidates when only 2 of the head coaches in the NFL, where a league is 80% African-American, is probably not the best. And the Broncos are interviewing right now, I think, 3 African-American head coaches. So that would be great. It stinks that Brian Flores was moved on from. I don't think Brian Flores makes a lick of sense for Denver, because it sounds like there was some issues between general manager Chris Greer for the Miami Dolphins and Brian Flores, Chris Greer and George Paton are best buddies. You think Rick Spielman and George Paton are close? Chris Greer and George Paton are best friends, is my understanding. So if there's an issue between Chris Greer and Brian Flores, I don't think you're going to see George Paton hop on Brian Flores quickly to bring him in, given how much those connections matter. Maybe they will interview him, but I just think it's a long shot for Flores to come in, given the relationship with Flores, between Greer and Paton.
Yeah, and I don't particularly care that the schedule they ran 7 off in a row against the dregs of the NFL. You win 7 in a row in this league, you're doing something right. That's not easy. I don't care if you line up and play the worst team in the NFL 7 times in a row. That team was on the upswing and is on the upswing, the Miami Dolphins. So that caught me a little by surprise. I mentioned that kind of earlier in the show. Just repeat it. We get a lot of different people come in throughout the show that I couldn't remember someone keeping their job after 3 years. I'm sure it's happened, but I couldn't remember someone having 3 straight losing seasons and keeping their job. I was like, there's no way Fangio comes back. There's just no way. Not with as hapless and hopeless and boring that this team is, and that the fan base is turning apathetic and angry. That is just no way. And then, I thought, okay, well, Brian Flores might be that guy. And he wasn't. That surprised me a little bit that he wouldn't come in. So he won't be out of a job long. I promise you that.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree with you there. Well, guys, we got to get on out of here. Appreciate you so much. It's been an hour. We'll be back again. I'll be back again tonight with Carl, who is back in the country with his family now from the Dominican. So that'll be great. Make sure you guys are following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy, and I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Huddle Up Pod and at Mile High Huddle, where you can see all of our content coming in there when we go live, when there's any new articles, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're following us there, you're not going to miss any of that. Make sure also you're going to huddleuppod.com to get your swag on, as Chad likes to say. We got the coffee mugs. We got the hats. Scott always has his hair done in the morning, so he's not wearing the beanie, but maybe it'll get cold in Georgia again. So
it was. I had it on this morning, taking out the trash.
There we go. That's what we want. You need a rain jacket here to take out the trash. Also, guys, make sure you're joining us in the metaverse, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle, as well as /Mile High Huddle Pod. If you guys are listening to this after the fact, or you have an iTunes account in general, or wherever you listen to these after the fact with your podcast, make sure you find Mile High Huddle, Huddle Up, and leave us and the football priest, but us, your morning crew, the Breakfast Club, a 5-star review and a chance to win some swag every single month. If you guys are on YouTube, make sure you go to YouTube and find us at Mile High Huddle. Subscribe, like, and share to our show there, as well as Scott's channel at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Scott, any parting words before we get on out of here? Any thoughts on the championship or the coaches or life?
At this point right now, just a plug. It's our first time. Yeah. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code MHH at manscaped.com. Mm-hmm. Do it. Yeah. Go get it done.
New year, new balls, right? That's what the read says or something. Scott's like, the read is really cringy. And I'm like, you just got to lean into it. The dirtier, the sillier, the better. I need all the puns. That'll be great. I'm curious, what are we going to have, some Groundhog Day ones for February, or make the presidents proud for President's Day with your newly shaved balls? Like, just let's do it. Let's have a good time with it. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. Good game last night. We're excited to see the new coaches that the Broncos are going to interview in this process. Obviously, they cannot interview a lot of guys because they're part of teams that are in the playoffs. But you could see those 2 Packers guys being interviewed here pretty soon. So we'll see. It'll be fun. A lot of news, a lot of changes coming, and a lot of hope in Broncos country. So we'll lean into that. Let's hope also, let's go whoever's playing the Raiders and whoever's playing the Chiefs. Knock those 2 sons of guns out of the playoffs, and knock the Rams out of the playoffs, Cardinals, because I'm not cheering against Von Miller, but I want the picks to be higher. So there's a rooting interest for this weekend. You guys have a good one. We'll see you tonight for Building the Broncos, and choose kindness, choose compassion. Go Broncos.